In this episode of TAC Tic Talk, Jacqueline and I caught up with Dr. Lynn Toohey. Dr. Toohey is a PhD in nutrition and talks about the article which appeared in the January 2023 issue of the American Chiropractor, Healthy Post-Holiday Metabolism and Nutrition. This is an important article on weight balance to get your new year started out on the right foot. Dr. Toohey also talks about practical chiropractic, an important technique seminar every year that you can attend. This next year it'll be in October in Denver, Colorado. Listen on to hear what Dr. Toohey had to say. Welcome. Here we have Dr. Lynn Toohey. Dr. Toohey is a longtime contributor to the American Chiropractor magazine. Dr. Toohey, welcome to Tic Talk. Now, this is a product of the American Chiropractor magazine. Of course, we're talking about the chiropractic, but we're also talking about nutritional interventions that we can do to help our patients. I'm Dr. Joe Bush, the editor of the magazine, and this is Jacqueline Toussard, the publisher. So welcome, Dr. Toohey.
Thank you for having me.
And I wanted to jump out of the gate. I wanted to ask really quick because Dr. Joe, I'm not sure. Dr. Toohey, how do you say your last name?
Toohey.
Toohey.
Yeah,
the H is silent, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything else is silent. Just Toohey.
All right, so I didn't want to interrupt there, but go ahead. I wanted to hear a little bit more about you.
So, Dr. Toohey, you wrote a great article in the January issue, January 2023. Now, of course, today is like December 19th, I think, and on healthy post-holiday metabolism and nutrition, which was a follow-up to your article on practical chiropractic, which I want to hear about both, right? Because you have a seminar that you do annually, and it involves a lot of technique. And I love technique. I love talking about these different approaches to helping people. So can you talk to us a bit about your background as well as this article, what the inspiration was behind it?
Sure, Joe. My background is that I got my PhD degree from Colorado State University in Fort Collins. And I graduated summa cum laude and wound up taking a position at CSU as affiliate faculty, and then later on taught some classes over in Greeley as a former adjunct professor there at CU. So that was my educational background. And in the year 2000, I was so impressed with the company Nutri-West that I'm now currently working for, that I started becoming a representative and just feeling good about the fact that I was putting my nutritional knowledge, to use and able to help so many people. And I wanted to thank you both, by the way, because I feel like through the articles that I've written through American Chiropractor, that the word gets out there on how to better use nutrition and, have it support different things in our lifestyle and just to be healthy. So on the articles, yes, I did contribute an article on metabolism for the January issue. And I did that mostly because I personally believe that a lot of people who focus on metabolism during the holidays have the wrong health message. A lot of people think that, oh gosh, I'm going to be eating a lot of sweets and, ingesting a lot of calories. And so I'm going to starve myself before I go to the Christmas party. So from a metabolism standpoint, there's nothing worse that you could do because our body is like a furnace, and our food, which is calories, is our fuel. And we need to burn that fuel to keep the rate of the burning up, to be efficient with it. So people who are starving themselves during the day are working on reducing their rate of metabolism, and it works against them. So I compare it to the wood in a wood stove. If you have to keep it pumped, you start with the kindling and you have to keep it pumped to really reach that burning zone where you're generating heat for the house. And if you look at our bodies, we need to generate heat because that is synonymous with burning our calories and making ATP, which I know a lot of us, are familiar with because ATP is our energy currency. Just as we expect to get goods and services with money, our body can't run without ATP. So every time we take a breath or a step, anything that we do is a biochemical process that uses ATP. So starving yourself during the holidays just slows everything down, and it tells the body that it needs to store. So, the body gets signals to store calories instead of using them to burn. So I think that people get in trouble during the holidays with that. And it's just much better to maintain a healthy lifestyle, eat the right nutrition, keep up your exercise program, just, using the healthful tips to get us through the holidays.
And that's an important message there, especially with fad diets that are coming on, especially the intermittent fasting and the, long-term fasting that some people are doing. There is an issue with dropping metabolism and the burn rate. So, this message is as important as ever. So,
well, Dr. Joe, that's what I was going to ask about. Lynn, what do you think about the intermittent fasting then? I mean, I'm guessing from a health standpoint, that's one thing, but for weight loss, you're saying is counterintuitive, correct?
Well, I like to think of weight balance as something that is nutritionally sound. And when I talk about reducing calories to nothing, that's kind of a daily intake. I'm actually a proponent of intermittent fasting, and not fasting for a week or going on a detox where you have no food intake. But the intermittent fasting is a concept that has been brought about to support healthy aging. And one of the best ways that you can do that, since one of the ways that we use our ATP and our energy and generate a lot of free radicals is our digestive system. So to give it a rest, it's been suggested maybe 10 to 11 hours from the time you eat dinner to the time you eat your breakfast. And breakfast is break fast. It doesn't mean you have to have it at 7 o'clock in the morning. But that is you can still maintain that and take in over 1,200 calories a day if you're an average sized woman without reducing your metabolism rate.
Okay.
So that's the goal. You want a minimum amount of calories per day in order to maintain that metabolism rate.
Yes, you have to have a minimum, and anyone can Google, their weight and how many calories are suggested, that they burn. But you just don't want to go underneath it so that you're not fueling the furnace. And there are several. Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Well, I was going to just say, so how does this affect the microbiome gut brain axis? How does that get influenced by it, or these players that we need to consider as we do this type of thing?
I'm glad you asked. That is one of the focuses of my lecture topics when I do talk. And the microbiome gut brain axis is affected by everything that we eat. And so, here again, it's really important to maintain a healthy microbiome, and limit our sugar and unhealthy fats and the things that we might tend to take in over the holidays, and to support with things like probiotics. I use a product called Total Probiotics myself. It's a nice combination. It's a synergistic formula of a lot of probiotics. And even though some people focus individually on certain species, I like to use a broad, comprehensive formula. And this has been supported by the literature, because most scientists will say that, generally to support health and get done what you're looking for, you want a nice combination. Take advantage of all those probiotics.
What was the name of that product?
It's called Total Probiotics by Nutri-West.
All right, I'll definitely have to look into that, because one always wants a wide variety of strains of bacteria, and I'm sure that they've done the research there. Considering your background, you're not going to cut corners, right, Lynn?
Yes, like I said, I've looked into individual strains, and the research keeps coming up with, what you really want is a nice balance. And the nutrition that you would use to support metabolism over the holidays is very similar to the nutrition that you want to support the microbiome gut brain axis, because a healthy nutritional diet with supplementation is going to offer you the nutrients that you need to keep the gut healthy. The main one is going to be glutamine, because glutamine is the fuel of the intestinal cells. And
Mm-hmm.
glutamine also has a role in regulating the microbiome. So, along with probiotics will regulate the microbiome. So, if you regulate that microbiome, you regulate all of the neuroendocrine secretions coming out of the gut. And it includes so much. I mean, just about every neurotransmitter is made in our gut. We have all kinds of secretions coming out of the neuroendocrine cells that are regulating a lot in the body. And to think that we can supplement our body with probiotics and things that are supporting metabolism, it's a win-win. So if it's
Is there a
okay, I'd
way
like.
to target the immune? Is there a way to target like the immune system through this type of supplementation? Or, I mean, through the
Sure.
past year, 2 years, we've got the COVID, we've got, and of course, there's other bugs we're all worried about coming in the future. Is this a way that I've heard in the past that an unhealthy gut can become, a crisis emotionally as well as immune system wise? So
It's true.
how would one
It's
really
true,
target that?
Joe. Yes, that is a point. And I could actually go on for several hours on that, because one of my other focal points in lecturing is called immunition. And it's how nutrition does support our immune system. We have, there's various things going on there. Several nutrients have come out into the news, vitamin D, our mushroom glycans, probiotics. They will all help support in a different way. And so, I think that anyone interested in, learning more about that, because like I said, I could expound on that one forever, would maybe want to shoot me an email and, expound on some of the other nutrients and why, including some of the scientific references that show that nutritional power can definitely be accessed, during these interesting times.
What is your email, Lynn? You got to let them know. We got to.
My email is drtooheynutri-west@gmail.com. So that is D as in David, R, and my last name, which is T as in toy, OOHEY, Nutri-West, NUTRIWEST @gmail. So please do
Perfect.
contact me, folks. I'm happy to, go into more detail on that.
Now, with regards to functional medicine and nutrition, how do you determine what types of nutrients or who's deficient in what? Is there some kind of a lab support analysis that you can do, or is it just kind of by your experience?
Yes, actually, there is. I have a program called FH-Eval. It's short for Functional Health Evaluation, and it will evaluate not only blood labs, but DNA variants. And I think it's a good way to personalize a nutritional support program for someone, because it makes sense to look at what your blood labs say. It also makes sense, for instance, we're talking about metabolism in the January issue, right? So the FH-Eval program would take a file of raw data that you get from one of the many programs out there like 23andMe or Ancestry, and they give everyone who gets tested, they give them what's called a raw data file. Now, it looks like a lot of gobbledygook, but if you take that and run it through a program like FH-Eval, you get a nice generated report that defines each DNA variant that that individual has and how you can support it. So, for instance, as an example, someone could run through their raw data and find out that they carry the ADI-POQ SNP. SNP is single nucleotide polymorphism. It's a fancy word for gene variant. All it means is that that is a DNA variant you carry in your body that someone else may not. And so if the report shows up that you have this ADI-POQ SNP, it will give you a definition of what it is, a definition of the dietary and lifestyle support, and also recommended nutritional support. So as an example, the definition would say that adiponectin is a cytokine that is secreted from adipose or fat tissue. And people with this particular gene variant are limited in their production of adiponectin. And since adiponectin takes care of things like bringing our insulin and sugar levels into homeostasis, then these people are kind of starting out, with a deficiency in the sense that they really want to pay attention to the support and the lifestyle that would help. One of the few things that will help, for instance, is that it's been shown in research that people that carry this variant do better with monounsaturated fatty acids. So there's a whole list of them in the program, but an example would be avocados. Avocados are very high in monounsaturated fats. So I think someone, with this ADIPOQ SNP would do well to start liking avocados. And there are other diet and lifestyle tips, like you can use things to just help your lifestyle, have healthy fats, but maybe really reduce the unhealthy fats and the things that are not going to help maintain your blood sugar levels.
Well, this sounds like next generational type of health intervention. I saw Jacqueline's eyes kind of light up. Jacqueline, do you want to?
Yes. Well, I was excited to hear this because I thought, and obviously I've been here 26 years as both, reading this up and as my own guinea pig. So I'm always baffled too, trying to find out what's the truth. And so this seems to me now to explain why there is not one solution for everyone, or why some people can get away with dietary things longer than others. Is that what,
Yes.
would that be what it's saying?
Well,
they might not have that DNA variant.
Exactly. Yeah. Having a genetic variant doesn't mean that it will necessarily materialize, but there is, in some cases, especially where you have two variants, if you have two variants, then the probability increases further that you have this impedance and hurdle to overcome.
Right. Well, and that's one thing I'm excited to hear about, because I wanted to find out then, does that mean, because there's so many different messages out there. And so I'm wondering, is there one diet that's just an overall, this is your optimal healthy diet? Or is it one, what one man's poison, another, you know what I mean? There's those phrases where something that's, healthy for somebody it's actually detrimental to somebody else. So that's kind of what I'm always trying to figure.
Exactly. Yes, there are.
Another man's fear. That was the phrase, I guess. Right.
That was a particular article I was reading, was saying exactly that. Some people need to pay attention to the fact that you can personalize your diet. Basically, we can get an overall health message. I developed a 21-day detox program, for instance, that can be looked at as a healthy diet, the categories of foods to choose from, foods to avoid, pretty much. That's pretty general for everyone. And that program differs from most detox programs, I think, in the sense that it doesn't ask you to eat bone broth for a week, or something that, let's face it, that's not sustainable after you get off the diet. And I question how many patients are compliant on the program to begin with, because it's asking you to, veer off of the way that you would eat normally. And I'm just a firm believer that you need to adopt a program that you can use for life.
Right. Well, and I'm glad to hear that too, because as a mother who's then the designated chef, right, and dietary person in the family, I've gone through reading all these books over all the years, because I get a lot of them for free as an editor, and trying to put them into practice, and then realizing, like, you know what, it is just easier to find out what you can supplement that may be better. Because I was even going to ask, when you're talking about the probiotics, I'm like, I've read books on fermentation, I've made my own yogurt. I'm like, then at the end of the day, you're like, really, is this going to be better than what I could get in a supplement form? And then you could actually have a life. So that's what I'm always balancing out. Like, to minimize the amount of supplementation, but also maximize health, vitality, and enjoyment is a big factor.
It is. It is. I totally agree. And I think that we can all, abide by, I have heard it called the 90-10 rule or whatever, but I don't think any of us is 100% all of the time. But if we can shoot for 90-10 for, ingesting healthy things in our body and, avoiding the sugar and fat laden
Right.
treats, that we're going to be on a good path. Because again, I could elaborate on that quite a bit, of course, being a nutritionist, but I think that the right message is to eat organic, to avoid the bad fats, to stay within a good caloric range. Again, for more detail, when I laid out the 21-day detox plan, I had in mind that any medical doctor could look at that and not have a problem with it, and not say
Right.
that I do not agree with because it doesn't sound like a good idea.
Well, how do people find is this a detox program? How do they find that also? Is that by email? Do you have it available somewhere?
That detox program is available on the Nutri-West website, and I will actually give you the 800 number for Nutri-West, because any practitioner can get access to the Nutri-West website, which offers a lot of good free education, including webinars from all of our speakers, and including information on the 21-day detox. There's a whole button and section on it. The 800 number is 800-443-3333. 800-443-3333.
You're making it hard on yourself, Lynn. Jesus.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. If you put in too many threes, you'll get MCI. And if you put in too many fours, you'll get an online dating service. So,
oh my gosh.
Some of the listeners are going for that, I think.
We can help you with your detox and maybe improve your love life and your phone service.
It must have meant to be. It was meant to be. This is the first time I've ever heard for a functional health evaluation of DNA testing. I mean, is this something that you came about on your own, or how did this get developed?
That has developed over several years, Joe. It started out trying to do an lab analysis program and looking at lab values that weren't necessarily out of the lab range, but they were pretty close to it. I mean, these days, if you try to look at lab values and you tell someone that your glucose is 119, that doesn't get flagged. Now that used to get flagged over 100. So, you can't tell me 119 is normal, but it's average.
No.
And that doesn't mean that we should be happy with blood glucose of 119. So the program will actually flag lab values that are out of optimal range. And we have a functional medicine lab guru, Dr. Brandon Lundell, who lectures for us. And he's actually the brains behind the algorithms in the program, and was able to help work it so that it has to be at a certain level to trip something, but it will give some recommendations. And again, it is a program, so you have to look at that and use your own analysis as well. But I think it gives you a lot of information.
So how does that influence, like these DNA variants? How's that relevant to metabolism homeostasis?
Okay, there are two separate parts of the program. One is lab analysis, and the other is the DNA analysis. So the DNA analysis, you would look up whether or not you had these gene variants and how they affect metabolism and what the recommendation would be. Like, so for instance, I talked about the ADI POQ SNP. Well, if you do carry it, what nutrition can you use to support it? And that would be, not surprisingly, total probiotics. And also total alpha lipoic acid, because they're good sugar support nutrients. And the probiotics, as I mentioned, regulates a lot in the microbiome. And one of the things that probiotics supports is adiponectin. In fact, I do have references that I have used in the past to lecture and to show that probiotics have been definitely demonstrated to have a good support effect on adiponectin. And that's a specific example. So for the scope of our talk today, I think it gives you an idea of how that relates to how you can use the information and the nutritional support suggestions to help you if you carry those particular SNPs. Now, whether you carry the SNPs or not, there is nutrition that can help you during the holidays for metabolism support. So I'd like to mention just a couple of those. The main one
good.
that
I wanted to get back. I thought, how'd we
yes.
get off on all this DNA? I'm like, what about metabolism? I remember.
Well, it's an interesting topic, and I'm very passionate about it, but I'm passionate about the nutrition too. And the nutrition of metabolism support is that the biggest nutrient, I think, is Coleus forscolii. This is an herb which has come to light in recent years as a very good support nutrient for cyclic AMP. And cyclic AMP, sometimes called CAMP, is a very, very, very interesting molecule. And it is actually its most active ingredient in Coleus is called forskolin. And it is the main ingredient that will support this cyclic AMP. But cyclic AMP is a derivative of ATP, which I've mentioned before, and which most of us are familiar with as our energy exchange. So Coleus forscolii supports our energy. It supports the ATP. It supports that production of energy. And whenever you say production of energy, it's synonymous with burning calories. So, burning calories and maintaining a good metabolism, Coleus forscolii is one of the best support nutrients for that. Another really good one is ribose. Now, ribose has really come into play and made headlines recently for its ability to support energy in a big way. I mean, I've heard Dr. Lindell say before that some of the EMTs are starting to carry it in, with them for, instances where people need instant energy to muscles, to the brain, to the heart. And that's what we're looking to do is support that whole energy process, which again is synonymous with ATP and producing energy. So ribose is definitely up there on the list. Now, green tea is another one. You see green tea in a lot of supplement formulas, and green tea is, along with everything else that it's known for, has theanine in it, and the theanine is really an interesting particular part of the green tea because the theanine has a very calming effect on the body. And if you drink green tea, some people wonder why you don't get the buzz that they get on the caffeine that is in coffee, because green tea does have some natural caffeine. It's because the theanine balances it. You don't get wired on the green tea. Some other really good flavonoids, because flavonoids are very good for supporting a healthy and balanced metabolism. Some interesting examples would be pomegranate, blueberries, hesperidin is a bioflavonoid, which is also really good. So all of those flavonoids are very, very helpful. Another interesting nutrient is ashwagandha. It even sounds calming, doesn't it? But it's very balancing. It's what's known as an adaptogen. And so adaptogens are so called because they basically will adapt or bring things into homeostasis, which is what we want to do with a support product. And ashwagandha is very well known for its ability as one of these adaptogens. So I just like the combination of all of those ingredients like Coleus forscolii, ribose, the phytonutrients, the ashwagandha, and also what I call designer choline, which would be CDP choline and alpha GPC choline. Alpha GPC choline stands for alpha glyceryl phosphoryl choline. It's much easier to say alpha GPC. that and the CDP choline are new designer cholines. They did a lot of studies on choline, and some of them just didn't go anywhere. It's like we heard about what a great nutrient choline is. How come it didn't make a difference here? Well, the alpha GPC and the CDP cross the blood-brain barrier a lot better. It's a lot more bioavailable. And so the addition of the ingredients that I've talked about with these designer cholines is in a formula that I like and that I use to support metabolism over the holidays. And that would be called Complete Metabolism. And that, again, is a Nutri-West product, and it is available through that 800 number I mentioned earlier, which was 800-443-3333, 5 threes and 2 fours. And so, yeah, I'm also a very firm believer in synergy. So there is something that all of those different nutrients offer, and when they're put together, they are synergistically combined and even more powerful than what they would be on their own.
So let me jump in and say then that means then you're recommending, because I was trying to think of as a doctor, are these like who would use these? I mean, you were mentioning too that you yourself use it through the holidays. So it's kind of like instead of waiting until after New Year's to say, okay, now I'm going to go on a diet, you're saying you go into the holidays knowing, okay, there's going to be opportunities for a little bit more than, because I was thinking too, I mean, who do you recommend it? Is it just people who aren't working out? Because I know there's certain times in my life where I just don't have time to exercise as much as I would love to, because I actually do enjoy it, but I just don't have the time. So that's what I was wondering is if who are the patients that are most that a doctor is going to recommend them for? I mean, I'm trying to think if there's, hugely obese people who, are never exercising, or just anybody, and those kind of factors.
I think that anyone can benefit from metabolism support. I think that the practitioner is going to be good in evaluating, who needs more support than the next person. But I think we can all benefit from support. A good analogy would be that I get asked all the time about when is the best time to detox. Well, I don't put it on the calendar. I mean, if you were to listen to any Nutri-West lecture, especially Dr. Brandon Lindell focuses on this, the xenoestrogens, the toxins we get from plastic these days. I mean, there have been studies that show that the average ingestion of microplastic is equal to a plastic credit card in a week. That's in a week.
Oh, wow.
That we're ingesting a credit card on average. So when people say, when do you detox? My answer is often and as much as you can. And why wouldn't you want to do that every day? So, I mean, you can do everything. Yeah, it's on a continuum. If someone is in bad shape, they really need to clear out the white noise, then the 21-day detox is what they're looking for. If you're looking for a daily maintenance, I take something called total systemic detox. It's got a kitchen sink list of the ingredients that you need to mobilize toxins, to bind them, and to remove them. And you need all those 3 points too, because some people make the mistake there of trying to do a detox without mobilizing or without removing. If you're just taking a binder, then it's not going to help you. It's going to stay in the body unless you remove it. And if you mobilize it without binding it, you're asking for trouble too.
That's a good point right there, is that, you can be detoxing, but you can be releasing things that then can create a bigger problem. So
that's the thing that I always wanted to find out, because we're joking around here, Lynn. I mean, obviously we're all walking the talk. We read this stuff, for years. We're trying everything out, and we're joking, saying like, well, we just did our detox, so we're ready to retox again. We're going to go out and live.
And that's why I was saying, if you have a program that's very restrictive and limiting, you will not stick to it.
So I like that, to have the 21-day detox for, I mean, that's the thing when you're kind of like, okay, I really got to get back on a more strict way. Like, for example, I was going to even ask you out of the gate, coffee is one of my favorites. As far as you talking about the green tea, I got my green tea here with the caffeine in it, but I'm always like, I love coffee. I don't have any sugar in it, but I've decided to emphasize the antioxidants, but I'm thinking, what kind of detox measure do I have to let myself indulge in my coffee every day?
Think of it as part of your 10 in the 90-10, Jacqueline.
Right. Exactly. Well, I was like, was that every day? Does that mean I get 10% every day?
Joe, I think she's asking permission to drink coffee. What do you think?
I never tell her no. I say coffee is a great thing. It's like a great antioxidant. It's good for your brain. I mean, I'm like, I don't know what your deal is with coffee. Why are you so against coffee?
I read all this
She's trying to market that it's bad for her while she drinks it. She's like, I'm being so bad drinking my coffee. I'm like, it's not that bad. Okay. I mean, like, seriously.
I can tell you one very positive thing about coffee. Coffee will inhibit an enzyme called phosphodiesterase, and phosphodiesterase breaks down cyclic AMP. So you're supporting your metabolism.
Is it good or bad? I was like, just say it in English terms.
The cyclic AMP thing was good. Remember that's the derivative of ATP energy. So yes, that was one of the things I'm trying to throw to you.
The coleus forscholi was helping that, Jacqueline. Remember? That was the whole deal.
Yes. Think of your coffee as having a similar support benefit as coleus forscholi.
Well, I try to cycle everything and try to go off about anything I feel I love too much, but
but she's constantly against coffee. It's a little weird, Lynn. I mean, like, she'll go from coffee.
Detox, I gotta do.
She'll go from coffee to espresso, and it's weird. I don't know, but we all have our things, so I'm not going to judge, Lynn. So or Jacqueline, either way.
Okay.
So Lynn, it's very, very interesting. We could definitely talk for the next several hours because you are a wealth of information, and anyone who is interested in really upping their game on this type of a topic needs to get in touch with Dr. Toohey.
Right.
Her email is at the podcast in the title, and she's at your disposal to use all of the years of research she's done and her work with other doctors like Dr. Lindell and Nutri-West to help your patients. And you
also
live a healthier
picking up the American Chiropractor every month, right? Because we have ongoing columnist participation coming up in the upcoming year. So I think if you don't get around to picking up the phone, just pick up the American Chiropractor, right? And see what the latest and greatest is coming from Lynn, right?
Yes, and the thank you both. And the Practical Chiropractic, which was the seminar we had with 5 very practical chiropractors showing all of their demonstrations. We did a lot of hands-on. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that we do have a very full staff at Nutri-West for lecturing and presenting the seminars, and as a short list. I mean, I think all chiropractors are familiar with Dr. Dan Murphy, and he's just wonderful. Right. He lectures for Nutri-West, and his article service is invaluable. I mean, you just show up on all the research that has to do with chiropractic and nutrition. It's wonderful. We have Jared Alamong is an expert in functional methylation. Dr. Steve Edis is our applied kinesiology and acupuncture lecturer who, does a lot of coordination with that. Just really good speakers. We have, the ones that, like I said, were in practical chiropractic, but it's just something. The Practical Chiropractic Seminar is something to look forward to. It's every October. Next year will be the 7th and 8th. So again, anyone who's interested, just shoot me an email and we'll show you what it's all about.
We ran that article in the December issue, which can be found online at theamericanchiropractor.com. And there was a great summary of all of those technique experts that were there. And so every year you do this seminar, I think it's in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
right?
correct.
Lynn,
that's correct.
So you're saying it's in October? Is that
October? Yes, it's in October every year. So next year is the 7th and the 8th, and it is held in Denver.
And how can people pre-register for that? Is there a website there, or is that Nutri-West?
Yeah, they can just shoot me an email, and they're registered as soon as they tell me that they want to come. We'll let them in the door if they pay us.
That's fair enough.
No ticket, no laundry. Yeah.
No free rides. No free rides, Lynn. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
We certainly enjoyed it. I hope to get another chance to do this in the future. Please.
It's been fun. Thank you so much for the opportunity.